Buddy, I guess I can't ask if you can hear me now because you can't. I can't hear you. There are 47 of you guys already. That's fantastic. There's supposed to be 106. You think we should wait another couple of minutes or should we get going?
It is 5 past. Hi, everybody. It's Lindsay Call. It's 5 past. Let's give everybody about 2 more minutes to get situated, get a glass of water, and then we'll get started.
We can hear you. Oh, good. People are answering. Hi, Lindsay and Lindsay. All right, so people can chat. Excellent. Lots of people writing in. By the way, we can all see your names as you sign in. Unless you're on a cell phone. Oops, somebody's named ADR Services. But I can see everybody, and someone's a wireless caller. But everybody else, fantastic showing. They've all discovered, can we see each other's chats? No. Like people can only chat with moderator, yes. Obviously, you guys have done this before.
Okay, Lindsay, you want to kick us off?
All right, fantastic, everybody. Well, welcome to the first online CERT check-in and refresher. Thanks so much for woohoo! Thank you for setting aside your time today and weaving your way through any of these technological challenges. Unfortunately, speaking of technological challenges, you won't be able to see my face today, but you can hear my voice. Fingers crossed that that's the only technological challenge we'll have for the next hour and a half. So just to remind you all, I'm Lindsay Folsom. I think most of you already know me or have been the recipient of my multitudinous emails for the last 7 years. I will be your MC today. Just one housekeeping item, maybe you've already figured it out. Because there may be 106 of you today, we've set it up so that only you can chat with us, the moderators, and we cannot hear your voices. So you can also use the sidebar chat for any questions that you might have. And even though we've asked you to send us questions in advance, we're hoping to answer those and any additional ones on the side. If we can't get to them, we'll certainly answer them later via email. So again, thank you all for being here today and being such fantastic CERT members. I know these last few months have been quite trying in more ways than we could have imagined. But hopefully it's offered us the opportunity to reflect on what we can do and have done as CERT members. I'd like to honor those members we've lost in the last year, as well as any of our community and family members. I'm joined today by Lindsay Call, our Chief Resilience Officer and also the Director of the Emergency Operations Center. I think most of you know her, and around here she's known as Lindsay number 2. I'd also like to introduce you to Stephen Torrance, our new Emergency Services Administrator. Poor guy arrived in Santa Monica just in time for the pandemic, so he doesn't know what normal should be in the office. He'll share more about his background when he's up. So we've all taken the 3-day CERT class. For some of us, that could be 9 years ago. Some of us have attended the annual CERT Refresher classes we've put on, but I'm sure we need refreshed or to look at what our knowledge base is as it relates to today. Throughout this presentation, we're going to look to cover various areas, including updates and invaluable COVID-19 information. We're going to talk about the path forward for the CERT program. We're going to fill you in on some current engagement opportunities and events, discuss the Disaster Service Worker Volunteer Program, and of course, answer the questions that you've submitted in advance and the ones that may be added in the chat. All right, are we ready to get this party started? I'd like to hand it off to Lindsay Paul.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight. I'm Lindsay Call, for those of you who may not know me. I am the city's Chief Resilience Officer, and have been serving Santa Monica, 3.5 years, I think, but been part of the Santa Monica community for a lot longer than that. And I'm thankful to be a part of the CERT team for the last couple of months, since February or March. I've been serving as the Emergency Operations Center Director for our COVID-19 response. And so thankful that you're all here, and also really thankful we have a new team member with the Santa Monica OEM team, Mr. Stephen Torrance.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Lindsay Folsom said, I've been with the city, it just started in February, so showed up right before the marathon started. I thought that was going to be the big thing that we had to deal with here in the city, but turns out there was this little thing called COVID that showed up. So it's always nice to be here and be with you guys. Just a little bit about myself. I come from the city of Placentia with their police department. I was the emergency manager for that city. During my time there, I worked with a lot of the CERT members for that city. Got a team started in that city, and I was also the chair of the Orange County CERT Mutual Aid program for that community. So that oversaw about 80 different programs in the county. Some were run by city members, some by the county, and also some by the local jurisdiction. So I'm happy to be back into the CERT wheelhouse and getting a chance to interact with everyone that's here. I know this is not the ideal setting for all of us to meet under, but I really look forward to getting a chance to know everyone. I started off in CERT with just teaching the fire utilities and fire controls, and that was my way into CERT, and I've been dealing and wheeling CERT for about 7 years now. So it saddens me that we can't actually have these in person, because the whole community component of it is kind of taken away with virtual refresher courses. But hopefully when these things kind of slow down, we can get a chance to get back out and return to our new normal, where we can actually get out and get a chance to meet each other and enjoy the community that we used to know here in Santa Monica. So I look forward to working with everyone. Look forward to seeing you guys. I know I really can't see you guys here, but I know the chat is live. So I look forward to chatting with you guys when we have a chance. So with that, I know we've been talking about where the city has been as far as COVID-19. We're going to kind of switch it over to just kind of give you guys a general overview of what the city has been doing, and just some additional public health emergency information from Lindsay. This is one of those opportunities where we can get a chance to see what's been going on, not just here in the city, but just what the internal workings are, and then how to best protect yourself. So like I said, look forward to getting a chance to know you guys, but I'll switch it back over to Lindsay.
Thank you, Stephen. And I can't even begin to explain how amazing Stephen and Lindsay have been throughout this disaster event. We've had two emergencies that we've dealt with collectively in the last several months. And so I'm very glad we hired him in February and that the onboarding process didn't take any longer than it did. So very thankful. Okay, can we start the presentation? Perfect. And to answer someone's question, I was just wearing a hard hat and goggles in the spirit of CERT and just being my goofy normal. So no, a hard hat and goggles is not required. But if you're wearing your CERT, hat or you out and ready to go, you get points for that.
Also, people wanted to know if this is being recorded. Yes, it is being recorded.
Perfect. That not to make me nervous at all. So with our COVID emergency, clearly this is a global event. It's a global pandemic. And so we have been looking at the numbers since mid-February. We had heightened concern that this was going to be a significant event. We are constantly monitoring in our Emergency Operations Center the data that's available to us, both at a Santa Monica level, but also in LA County and Southern California region level, as we know that the number one rule with diseases is they know no boundaries. And so, an area that could be impacted one day could change rapidly, and so we want to make sure we're up to date. The pictures that you're seeing on your slide is from the LA County data dashboard. It is a very, very helpful tool that you can see the density of cases and the case rates across LA County. Click on your specific jurisdiction where you live and work and get the numbers for that, as well as the cumulative cases. So far, we can go next slide. If you want a quick snapshot of what Santa Monica looks like, or just kind of the trend rate, we also have a COVID-19 response dashboard that was created by our city team, our city EOC. It's available on our Santa Monica coronavirus website. And so for today, and the screenshot was taken a couple of days ago. So right now where we're at is 616 cases within Santa Monica. From a county-wide perspective, the two numbers that we're looking at really closely to gauge how we're doing in regards to response, are we going to be able to reopen different sectors, is the test positivity rate and having that be below 8%. Right now we're at 8.2, and our hospitalization trend. So the nice thing about this response dashboard is, again, you get the state, region, and local perspective, as well as you can see our trend lines for LA County, Santa Monica, and then also LA County hospitalizations. One other thing to note real fast on this is the Santa Monica, the number of individuals tested. We have one testing site in Santa Monica, located at the Santa Monica College Airport campus. That is fully operational. It's run by the state. But that number doesn't just include that state testing site, but also all of the testing sites by our private providers, where a lot of people within the Santa Monica community are getting their tests. Next slide. So I want to do a quick plug. We have did a community survey back in April where we put out information via SM Alerts, our SAMO News website, and on social media, doing a listening session, asking people what are their major concerns, what challenges are they having. This is reflective when we were in a major shutdown. And so this is a highlight of what responses we got from that community survey. We actually just launched a new survey today. It's in SAMO News, and then we'll be posting it on social media. We could send out the link to this group. That is primarily, again, looking at the economic stressors on our community, as well as childcare stressors, and then trying to get to the core about my favorite topic and probably your favorite topic, face coverings, and trying to really understand, are people being compliant and wearing face coverings, and if they're not, why? What are some, that way we can tailor some of our communication strategies to focus on those gaps. Next slide. So what are we doing in Santa Monica? We have been very busy. So we activated our Emergency Operations Center March 12th, just a few days after LA Marathon, but we were working on COVID well before that in preparation. So we'll be over 100 days, or we are over 100 days already. It's been quite the journey going from a full closure with just making sure that the Santa Monica government's core operations continued and were able to be fully supported throughout the entire emergency, that all of our critical staff members had all of the necessary PPE, personal protective equipment, that they needed to do their jobs in a safe manner. We've been working really closely now as we've moved into this reopening phase, developing the reopening protocols and standards for our city facilities and programs, working with our local partners, businesses, hospitals, nonprofits to make sure they have what they need. And then closely working with LA County Department of Public Health to try to make sure we answer any questions for the public, address any concerns in a joint manner, and really continue that dialogue. So it has been a very, very busy, that doesn't even describe what we've been doing. And I want to thank you for your patience because Stephen and I have been the primary responders in this incident. We've been a little bit busy, and sadly, CERT has taken a bit of a back seat because our first responsibility is to this emergency response. And so just thank you for your patience as we haven't been able to do as much preparedness work in the last couple months. Next slide. So you probably are all experts now in COVID and know exactly how to prevent illness, and hopefully this is old news for you guys. The things we really want to stress is that if you're sick and you have any cold, flu-like symptoms, feeling under the weather, you stay home, please. You know, this disease comes out in a clinical presentation in many different ways, and so please stay home. There's also a large amount of asymptomatic spread or pre-symptomatic spread where you're not showing symptoms, but you can still spread the disease. And so that's why wearing a face covering is so critical when you're in public and outside of your household, that you don't unknowingly spread the disease to others. One of our biggest challenges has been getting people not to gather in groups. No social gatherings are allowed outside of your household. My nickname for the last couple of months has been Debbie Downer, so I'm sorry, but those like backyard barbecues and birthday parties and all of those fun things that we took advantage of a couple months ago, they're still not allowed per the LA County Health Order, and it's really an environment where you're eating and drinking and not wearing a face covering. It's a really dangerous situation to be in. Again, limit the close contact, confined spaces, crowds. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, disinfect, clean. Make sure you're not touching your eyes, your mouth, your nose, especially with dirty hands, and just be smart about all of the hygiene measures that are good everyday practices. So how to protect yourself. I'm sure all of you have incredibly well-stocked disaster kits and didn't run out of anything in the beginning of the COVID emergency. I'm sure none of you were in the grocery store stocking up on toilet paper or gloves or masks. Um, so for personal protective equipment, the things that we have been making sure our staff in the city have and that we recommend everybody have, face mask is number one. Making sure you have that cloth face covering or a surgical mask that goes over your nose and your mouth and that you wear it at all times in public. Face shields are really important. They're the plastic ones that cover your entire face. They're most valuable in people that you're talking with, or you're serving at a restaurant. If someone else doesn't have a face covering on, then you want to be wearing a face shield to protect yourself, in addition to wearing a face covering or a face mask. Eye protection, my dirty goggles is something important, especially when you're dealing with patients. Gloves. I have all these props. It's so super fun. Gloves, using gloves on high touch surfaces, but making sure before you put on your gloves, you wash your hands or use hand sanitizer. And after you use your gloves and you take them off, you wash your hands and use hand sanitizer. And then gowns are also something, and coveralls are something that you may see our city staff be wearing, depending on the type of exposure that they may have. So there is a lot of different information out there on coronavirus, some good, some not so good. I'm sure your social media is flooded with different opinions about COVID-19. We just wanted to share some helpful resources to find information about what's going on locally. Hopefully they're not new to you, but probably the first couple of days, we built a coronavirus website, santamonica.gov/coronavirus. You can find all sorts of information there, resources, how to donate, different volunteer options, what's open, what's closed in Santa Monica, all of our reopening information, a whole lot about face coverings. So it's a really great website. Highly recommend that you check that out and explore. Next. Another great website is the Santa Monica Cares Business Recovery website. This is for business, but it also has really great resources for everybody. So where to find a job, different updates on requirements related to LA County business reopenings, what we're doing as a city to support our local businesses so that they survive and thrive after this event. And so this is terrific. There's also a really great place where there's a toolkit with different signs that are publicly available that the city's designed. You can go and download them, print them, post them at your store, but also like our Santa Monica sign that has, I wear my face covering for you, you wear your face covering for me. That's available on this site as well. Next slide. And then finally, the place with all of the information, our LA County Department of Public Health website. So if you are interested in looking at the data for yourself, where it says view LA County daily COVID-19 data, that has all the data for the specific jurisdictions, the trend lines that we're looking at, as well as the reopening metrics that we have to hit in order to continue to move forward on our reopening path. You can also find all of the requirements for different sectors when they reopen. So you know what to look for if you're going out to a restaurant or you're going to an outdoor workout class. That's all there, as well as lots of resources for businesses and individuals. So if you're looking for anything, it's probably on that website. And now I think I'm turning it back to Stephen. Am I correct?
Yes, you are.
Okay,
Well,
good.
welcome to the age of COVID where you have to remind yourself that you're on mute.
No problem.
Um,
I'm going to put myself on mute. Thanks, guys, and look forward to hearing some questions.
Thank you, Lindsay. I really appreciate the information. Um, So one of the things that we really wanted to do today, we just didn't want to just share a lot of COVID-19 specific information with you, but we wanted to just kind of make this a refresher for everyone. I know that a lot of people have been wanting to engage with the CERT team and kind of utilize some of the skills that we have in place. We just kind of wanted to look at this day as an opportunity to remind people that COVID-19 is a disaster that our CERT program does allow for us to get trained for, and kind of looking specifically at how some of the things that you guys learned in your course can be applied to what's going on now with COVID-19, and if there is, a secondary emergency. As many of you guys know, we had a second emergency within the city on May 31st, and that's something that a lot of people were not aware of, but at the same time, the impact was actually very severe here in the city. So we just kind of want to talk a little bit about how the course is still relevant, and then also kind of focus on one particular subject, which is what a lot of people are dealing with now, which is the psychological first aid. That is a big component. There's a lot of resources that we're going to touch on, but also just kind of making sure that we're cognizant of those as we continue to work with with this emergency, but also making sure that we're taking care of the self. So turn my screen back on. So one of the main things this picture that's in the background, I saw it, and it was definitely interesting to me to go out to the stores right in the beginning where things started to get shut down, and actually see all the stores in just the greater LA area kind of have bare shelves. People were standing in lines. People were going and trying to go to multiple grocery stores looking for basic items, food, toilet paper, and more toilet paper. There was all kinds of things. But one of the things that we wanted to focus on is kind of looking at how our CERT training prepares us for certain activities like this. There's not many instances where the city of Los Angeles, Santa Monica, where we see these runs on grocery stores. Typically, you see these things in areas where people are about to get hit by a hurricane, or post-disaster after a tornado hits, where people are running and looking for resources. That's kind of where we wanted to look at this and go, what is the role of CERT during COVID-19? And one of the main things that we've looked at is there were tons of food shortages. The main thing that happened in March is when you started to have these shutdowns. There were a lot of things that were just different, but they were happening fast. The stay-at-home orders that we ran into. All of these things, we can't say that we learned this exact topic in CERT, but a lot of the things that we did learn definitely have parallels to the topic and the disaster that we're going into. So the main thing where we looked at the role of CERT, be prepared. That was one of the main things that we looked at. We don't have to have the giant stock of food and water, but if we had water, if we had food, if we had toilet paper, I used to have a prop back in the day, and when people would say, okay, what's going to go in my disaster kit, and everyone would have the basic things, and I would just have one roll of toilet paper, and I said, we all need this. I don't know if it's ever going to be a thing, but you probably want to have at least one roll. And sure enough, everyone panicked, and sure enough, Walmart and all the major big box stores were out of toilet paper for almost over a month. So kind of looking at your disaster kit and just making sure you're being prepared, being aware of the impacts that disasters can have on you as an individual, and then also just being ready for them. We never know when these events are going to happen. Sometimes you never know when a shutdown is going to happen. So just having those things in place in order to make sure that if something does happen, in Los Angeles, we typically focus on earthquakes. And of course, those can happen at any moment, and we should always be prepared for those things. The second component of this is just exercising and evaluating your plans. During CERT, there's always a large component where we say, develop that plan for yourself and your family. If you're away from your loved ones or if you're away from your home, what is your plan for getting back to a sense of comfort? Those are the components where we look at and say, as much as we're evaluating our plans, is that plan still relevant? Especially now, and we'll talk about it in just a little bit, when we have our plans in place, did our plans kind of take into account that all of our family members are going to be at home now? And that's where we have to start evaluating it and going through that CERT size up, looking at the situation. Is this something that I'm prepared for? And if not, how can I work with what I have in my toolkit, whether it be information or actually physical items, and say, these are the things that I need to make sure that I'm ready. And sometimes these tools are not going to be best for this kind of situation. And what do I need to make myself more comfortable, and not only myself, but my family members and the people around me? The other component is where that community component comes in, is that CERT community component. Sharing that information, especially the critical information, with people that necessarily need to know. If you live by yourself, if you are away from your family, and you want to make sure that someone knows that you have a loved one that is home, if it's someone who needs assistance within their home, but you have to step away, maybe sharing that information with a trusted partner within the community, whether it be a really good friend, and having maybe multiple people on the list to say, in the event that I'm away from home and something happens, maybe can you take care of my loved one when I'm not here? Just so you can have that partner in place and have a level of comfort if there is that emergency that does come on all of a sudden. Our favorite topic recently, emergency alerts. Those are, we want to make sure that you guys have access to pertinent and actually accurate information. What we've seen in the last couple of months is that information, especially if it's localized, is really important, because if it comes from the county, if it comes from another city, depending on where you are, we want to make sure that the local alerts that you have are actually what you need to know, and making sure that you have access to that. And we're going to touch on that just a little bit more later on in the presentation. But also the main focus of this refresher is looking at the psychological impacts, because most of the times we don't have an opportunity to really examine the psychological impacts of pandemics, because we really haven't seen too many. Most of the time they've been localized in countries and they've been on the epidemic level, but now that we have something here and we see not only just the viral impact, but the cascading impacts of the economic and the change that has happened, how do we deal with those things? So we want to make sure that we're keeping our training up to date, having our training reflect our new normal, our new reality. And by doing those things, it's important for us to really continue to do our size up and say, okay, if I wasn't prepared for this, what do I need to make sure I'm ready for that? That's where you practice your skills and you personalize your plans. So when something does happen, we don't have that one size fits all plan for everyone. Sometimes, I like to tell people, and I don't know if you guys can see it, but I wear glasses. Do I have a second pair of glasses? Yes, I do. The reason why is because if there's something that I break my glasses, that's where I need to personalize my plan to make sure I can still see in the event something does happen. But also having the community feedback. We've received a couple of calls, how to better connect with people of our community. Those are great ways to make sure that not only are you staying in contact with the people around you, but if there's something where you give feedback to your neighbor, hey, you know what, this is maybe not the safest thing to do. How do I make sure that I share that information with my friends and family, or if it's something where you share the information with the entire CERT community or us and OEM, that's how we can better make sure that our resources and our tools and information are best being shared with everyone. The last but not least component of this, we love that our CERT members are volunteers. We can't do this alone. As Lindsay said earlier, we have been taxed over the last few months, and we are happy to be able to kind of have a moment where we can engage with everyone. But sometimes volunteers are the main things that keep us being able to respond to the levels that we really want to. So those are the main core elements of CERT. But we wanted to also talk about, just focus on the wellness component. And before I like really go into it, and I just want to share what some of the things that we've done here in the EOC. And as you guys have heard, we've been doing this since March. It's been a very, very long time, sometimes working six days, 7 days in a row, emails, phone calls going back and forth. I can't say that there's really been a break, but there's also been that moment where we always have to focus on, we go back to the components of CERT, and that responder safety is a priority. And making sure that the people that are in your life, the people that you are working with, that we are taking care of each other on a psychological level. So when we talked about psychological first aid and disaster psychology within the CERT module, we focused on a lot of the things like irritability and anger, all of the things that show up during an emergency or right after emergencies. Most of the time we're talking about an earthquake. We're talking about those sudden impacts that end all of a sudden. We didn't really talk about, the CERT module really didn't talk about a 6-month, 7-month operation where you have a large impact going on for so long and all the cascading effects. You know, we've seen these in hurricanes and tornadoes where the outcomes or the adverse effects of those stay on for a long time. And normal doesn't happen for a very long time. We're seeing that here, and it's a very different outcome right now, but we still have these large impacts where we have people that are irritable and very angry. People are taking blame where they shouldn't, but there's certain things that we can control and certain things that we cannot. People are isolating and withdrawing from each other, and the fear of just being able to the fear of going outside, which some people, it's a very valid reason to be fearful of going outside, but we see more and more, whether we like it or not, this social media of capturing people, some of them not having their best days, and we look at that and we go, these are those adverse effects of trauma and disaster the disaster on us as an individual, and we can't ignore those things. The fear of reoccurring.
Can I chime in real fast?
Of course.
I just want to acknowledge that I think I can check at least 5 of the boxes on this slide as having personally gone through, these feelings and challenges, and that it is completely normal. This is an abnormal event, right? And all of these reactions are entirely normal. But you just want to make sure that you're dealing with it in a healthy way. And so I just wanted to say, hey, I'm right there. I definitely have been in denial a couple times. I think that happened actually yesterday at one point. I've felt helpless that we're opening and closing and going forwards and backwards. And so I just want you to know that, as responders, we're coping with this as well, and we appreciate everybody is in it together, for better, for worse.
Of course, and a lot of people are using the terminology, we're in it together, and that is one of the biggest things. We are in it together. We've heard a lot about our nurses and doctors, and I know there's been tons of reports out there showing what they've been going through day in and day out, and there's a lot of people, and I say we because there's a lot of people that kind of go out and just assume that they go home, they get some sleep, they go back to work, and everything's fine. But there are a lot of things that show up within their daily lives, and making sure that we're discussing this is one of those critical things to make sure that people are reflecting and understanding that this may not be in their control, but these topics and these things that happen to us are normal. So we definitely want to make sure that we're looking at that. And there's tons of things that show up, and we want to make sure that if you guys are seeing this in your families, just with you in your friendships, I know work sometimes has come home with us, and you guys are seeing that between coworkers. All of these things are normal. We just want to make sure that we're doing our best to identify them as much as possible. So, what are some of the things that we can do to kind of quell some of these concerns and make sure that we are working with each other together to get through this, and not just with the virus, but actually just from a personal level? Some of the basic things, and I'll say what we've been doing in here. So we've had a core team within our emergency operations center for about 5 months now. And although it is business 100% of the time in here, we've done our best to make sure that we are focusing on the individuals. So early on, when we were in here very early in the morning, we did our best to show a nice little fun video to laugh in the morning, just to kind of break up some of the seriousness, but at the same time, remind us that we are people dealing with this also. We also did, as far as having people in here, there was one person that said, "Hey, let's do push-ups every hour." Of course, when you're dealing with a lot of things in here in our emergency operations center, it's easy to forget that we're human, that we have other things going on. Not to say that we're going to completely stop working for our, for the members of our community, but remembering that, hey, you know what, let me do 10 push-ups real quick, and then that kind of, you could just see how the vibe within our organization. People would say, "Oh, you know what? Oh, I haven't done 10 push-ups in a long time. That was something new." And that's kind of where we looked at some of the things that we can do to make sure that we stay healthy within our with psychological first aid. Getting good sleep, identifying new skills and hobbies if you're at home predominantly, exercising regularly. That's something that we did here. Eating that balanced diet, balanced daily activities. If you're at home working, maybe have that moment where you can take that time to go outside, walk around, kind of have that balance as much as possible. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but those moments to take 5 minutes to step away from our computers, our video cameras, really help kind of break up the day and reduce the stress that we have. Allow yourself to give as much as receive. There's a lot of stuff that people are saying, "Oh, I will be fine," which is most of the time it's accurate, but sometimes it's nice to have that individual say, "You know what, maybe it's time for me to, just double check, am I fine?" If asking someone, "Hey, are you noticing that things are going well in my life?" Or just having a basic discussion with family. The one that we've kind of tried to work with, but connect with others. This is not our ideal, but at the same time, just being able to have that opportunity to connect with over 60 people now, and just being able to have it's kind of a one-way conversation, but it's communicating with people that we haven't had a chance to communicate with in a very long time. But if you do go out, please do it safely. If you're out at the beach, making sure that you're maintaining your physical distance and you're wearing your mask, and if you need any additional items, your gloves and your eye goggles, making sure that we're keeping that together. And the last but not least is utilizing the spiritual resources that we have in our community. If that is of your liking, we want to make sure that you have access to them. I know it's challenging right now, but we want to make sure that we are identifying those as things that can help. The last component is just kind of being aware of the trauma. These things can occur during a disaster, and that's typically what CERT talks about. But at the same time, they happen after the disaster. So these are major components where we want to make sure that we are taking this into consideration. We can focus on making sure our plans are in place. We can make sure that we have adequate PPE. But just like CERT has always said, the safety of the responder is one of the most important things. And our mental stability and our mental health is actually one of the critical things. Explaining to family members, listen when people want to talk. Don't force people to talk. Have that open door with everyone. So with that, we just want to make sure that we're extending some of the wellness information that is out there. There's a lot of commercials that are on TV, but we definitely want to make sure that people are aware that mental health resources are available. They've been available for a very long time, but at the same time, a lot of people need them more than ever now. So with that, we just want to share some of this information. We're going to be pushing this out in a follow-up email just after, probably a day or so after we are done with this presentation, just pending some of the things that are going on, because I know it's a little late, but we will be pushing some of this information out. For emergency mental health emergencies, please call 911. That is one of the best things to do, or The County of Los Angeles now has the text. You can directly text to have their 24/7 mental health line, 741-741, via text, or you can call them. So we just want to make sure that we make people aware of the resources that are available to our community, and making sure that we are focusing on the individual and the self as a way to make sure that we can make it through this emergency all together. So with that, just kind of a quick segue. As much as we've been talking about the mental health component, everyone's going, what do we do with CERT now? How do we come back and work as a team, and how do we actually get a chance to meet some of our family, our fellow CERT members throughout our community? So with that, we've run into it's an odd time. The state of California, along with FEMA, have the Federal Emergency Management Agency just got done revamping the entire CERT program. So actually on your screen, you will see that's the new participant manual. There's a lot of new material in the CERT manual. Some things they've taken out, they've revised a little bit to make sure it's up to date. Some of that CERT size up and making sure that they're looking and saying, is this topic still relevant? So there's going to be there's a new module there, a new manual that came out as far as 2019. We're in the process right now of getting a chance to look at that. It's just being released to a lot of jurisdictions, and we're just going to start incorporating that into our next module. So many people are wondering, well, if there's been a new course, when do I get a chance to take this course? The unfortunate reality is they released it right before a pandemic. So we're in a situation where we're trying to weigh whether or not or when we are going to be able to run this course. We're trying to figure out if we have the capacity right now to be able to go out and do somewhat of a virtual training. The state is taking the lead on this. They have a core team that they are working with a lot of the CERT program managers throughout the state, trying to figure out if there's an opportunity to fully make this course virtual, or how do we do the hands-on component. So there's going to be a lot of moving parts with this one. We are keeping our eyes on it. We are trying to make sure that we can do everything that we can to get this information out to our community, because we want people, not just the people on this call, but we want everyone to have the opportunity to be better prepared. With that, if anyone is interested in that class, once we get some more information on it, we will get that pushed out, and we will let you guys know as soon as we have the opportunity to run a class, when that class will be. Most of the time, if you have taken the previous course, you will not need to take the new course in order to maintain your CERT certificate. Once you take it, you're good. But it is also nice to be able to say, if you want to go out and take the course again, the material is very similar, but there are some new things to be able to share with that. As far as our refreshers, well, as you guys can see, this is our first one. We are trying to figure out if this is going to be a really good way of doing things for right now. It's also really weird because I can't see you guys, but I've been talking to my screen. So we're going to be wondering if this feedback is actually, if this virtual style of refresher is actually going to be good for the community. And it's not the ideal way of doing things, but it is what COVID-19 provides for us right now. So we're going to be doing a poll or a survey towards the end, just trying to get your feedback on this. It's new, and with the three of us have kind of definitely said we want to reach out, we want to do more, but we also recognize the limitations, and if there's an opportunity to modify them, we want to make sure that we're taking that into consideration. The emergency activities, we are knee deep in this emergency, and we actually are happy to say that we do have a really great opportunity for a lot of our CERT members to take a very large role in an event that's coming up that the city of Santa Monica is going to be working with a lot of our partners, not only with the county, but our private partners and nonprofits. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but we have these opportunities to continue to have that path forward where we may have opportunities to bring CERT members together. Of course, we're going to have to encourage social distancing, emergency protective measures. So of course we'll all meet. We will not be able to see all of our beautiful smiles and happiness because of course we're going to be all masked up. But the fact that we can come together and support our community, that's one of the main things that we're going to do. The program with our community, promoting the program within our community is one of the things that we can do. Sharing it not only with our friends and neighbors. The city of Santa Monica is not the only jurisdiction that has this program. So that's where we like to maintain that we have people that are working together to be able to push out information and then have access. As I said, the state's working on pushing a lot of this stuff out virtually. There are a lot of courses online that can better prepare people for emergency events. But at the same time, we want to make sure that you're sharing it with your neighbor, because a lot of the times during major emergencies that are those rapid onset, your first responder is maybe your neighbor. That's one of the things that we want to make sure that it's great that you are prepared and it's great that you are here, but it's even better when your neighbor, if it's your place that's on fire, or if there's you need rescuing, it's also great when your neighbor is equally prepared as you are. So that's where we want to make sure that the path forward is making sure that we are promoting this program as much as possible. The other last component is our disaster service worker volunteer program. A lot of people know that as government employees in the state of California, we are required to respond. If there's a major emergency, we have to show up and we have to make sure that we're responding to our community. With that, we have protections that are afforded to us, and the state of California is actually one of the few states that has a program like this, where if we have volunteers such as our CERT members that would love to actually help us respond, and you have been requested to respond, is one of the critical things with this. You are afforded the protections that the state provides to all city employees or county and state employees. So with that, we're going to be pushing this new form out for our people, for our volunteers to be able to get registered with the city. So if there is a moment where you guys are helping us, whether it be on a training or one of our upcoming events, if there is unfortunately anything that does happen to you, the state will have the insurance to make sure that they are taking care of you. This is one of the things that has started this program, I believe, is from 1960. It's been something that's been around, but we want to make sure that we are working with this these emergency declarations, that we are protecting our most valued resource, which is our people and our volunteers that are out there. We will do this form. You don't have to do it every instance, but we're going to be making sure that our contact information is up to date. So we'll be sending this form out for the group so people can get some eyes on it, see what it's about, and if you guys have any questions, we'll be able to respond back and forth. So with a lot of the emergency that's been going on, it's been going on for a good amount of time, and a lot of we've been having some emails that have come in going, how as a CERT member can I help? Luckily, most of the resources that the city has had, we've been able to sustain ourselves and be able to adequately respond not only to our nonprofits, but our community partners and our local agencies with the staff that we have here in the city. One of the small benefits of closing down certain facilities is we have more staff to move around and be able to support a lot of our emergency operations. But there are a lot of people that are getting burned out in other organizations that have been running since March, that have been consistently doing this just as much as we have been doing in our emergency operations center, and sometimes just doing truly heavy lifting. And one of the best parts about this core group of people is that you guys are vetted and trained and trusted. That is one of the critical things, and people are always coming to us going, hey, can we use your CERT members? Can we use your CERT members? And we want to just make sure that we are connecting you with opportunities within the city if you guys have if you have the time available. Our partners with the Salvation Army, we've been helping them logistically, but they also do need some support with their food pantries and making sure that they are serving our most vulnerable and needy, underserved members of our community. Our city's farmers market has been going on since the beginning of COVID-19. They They are a critical infrastructure. A lot of people actually get their food from these farmers markets. So we want to make sure that we're keeping that up and running, but we want to make sure we're doing it in a safe manner. And that's where the additional volunteers that are needed to help support that organization are critical, because there are a lot of additional protective measures that are in place. Meals on Wheels and the St. Joseph Center, both of them, they've had a lot of work that's been done since March. And a lot of their volunteers are really, they're being stressed, but at the same time, the need is growing in our community. And there's an opportunity to grow and expand their capacity so they can actually serve more members of the community. Same thing with Red Cross. It's wildfire season is still a thing despite COVID-19. And they're looking for additional volunteers to help serve not only the community within the city of Santa Monica, but the greater Southern California area. And then our Virginia Avenue Park Food Pantry. That is something that the EOC has worked with our city partners to be able to continue to serve our most underserved members of our community who are in greatest need, whether it be food resources or just information. These are all opportunities that the city has locally, where our CERT members who are, like I said, who are very trusted and vetted, these opportunities are great to be able to coordinate and still have a role within this emergency.
Even just quick to chime in.
Of course.
So some of these activities are through city programs like the Farmers Market and Virginia Avenue Park Food Pantry. Some of them are through independent nonprofits and organizations. And so just want to make sure it's clear that even if you're a CERT member, even though you're very trusted, if you're wanting to join one of these nonprofits, you're still going to have to go through their application process, background check process, etc., just so they can vet you just like we do. But they're amazing. They are doing incredible work, and we could not have done half the amount in our community during coronavirus without the incredible volunteers, incredible people at the organizations listed. Can't thank them enough. And then I am just really curious how this whole poll thing works on this new technology. So I'm going to be creating a poll and see if it works. If you're currently volunteering for a nonprofit organization, yes or no. So feel free to take the poll, get engaged, and then I might, who knows, maybe I'll create another one. I'll get just having fun here. Okay, continue on.
Excellent, appreciate it. So kind of going into some of the things and kind of making sure that we know what's available to us. The American Red Cross, they've actually revamped a lot of their online programming due to COVID-19. And also kind of, we want to make sure that people are aware of some of the things that are available to them with the changes that we've all had. A lot of people are at home more, working at home. There's this opportunity. We want to make sure that people know that there's a class online, taking CPR and first aid online. We are all at home now, so we don't necessarily have access to the same amount of people around us. Sometimes it's critical for our staff it's critical for people to know, hey, yeah, I at home, I had some downtime. I learned first aid and CPR, sharing that with the group. There's also a secondary psychological first aid, but the one that I know a lot of people may be interested in is that babysitting course. There's a course online where you can actually have the kids get out and take a babysitting course. One of the things, if you need assistance at home, or if you're looking for people to want to watch your kids, or you just want the kids out of the house, having them engage with people to go out, take this course, they can get that certificate and say, I'm a trained babysitter through the American Red Cross, and they can go out and they can do good for the community. So we just wanted to make sure that those are available. Most of them do have a small fee associated with them just because they are run through the Red Cross. But we want to make sure that those are available to you guys. So what's that CERT at home? CERT at home is kind of where we're kind of going to go for the next couple of months until COVID-19 allows for us to come back together. But we just want to make sure that you guys know some of the things to kind of focus on while you guys are at home, slow, not necessarily getting out too much. But some of the critical things is making sure that you're prepared for those unconventional and conventional emergencies. The ones that we talk about a lot within emergency management or locally in Los Angeles are earthquakes. We still need to be prepared for those. Wildfire season is here. We want to make sure we're still prepared for that. Looking at your plans and making sure that you're still utilizing if there's a plan in place. We've had to look at our plans and go, well, if there's a heat emergency, we can't do what we've always done. So making sure that those plans that are in place are still good. Making sure that you have adequate PPE for a potential second wave. We're not sure where these numbers are going to take us, but we want to make sure that if we do have something that happens, that we don't utilize all of our PPE during this first time. We want to make sure that we still have a disaster cache available for that next emergency if unfortunately we do have it happen. Access to SM alerts, and what that is our localized text messages that we push out if there's a call to action, or if there's something that we need to push out a very specific message to our Santa Monica residents. That differs from our wireless emergency alerts, which the county pushes out, and that was actually very critical. Our SM alert system was very critical during the civil unrest that we had, because there was a lot of curfews that were going around. The city of Culver City had times, Beverly Hills had times, the county set out times, but the city of Santa Monica, we had our own times. And that's where we wanted to make sure that we provided the level of information to our city members to make sure that they knew, hey, what time is curfew? Because we want to make sure that, if you're going to be out and you're traveling, that you go, well, I thought the curfew was at 6 o'clock, or it's at 5 o'clock, that's where that critical localized information comes to play. And we'll let you guys know how to sign up on the very end of our page. We're all at home now. A lot of the restaurants, a lot of people don't want to have to go out, so people are cooking more. And unfortunately today, I don't know if anyone's seen the news. There was a fire in Pasadena where a young child lost their life due to a home fire. And that's where we kind of look at this and we say, want to make sure that our tools that are at home, whether it be our smoke alarms, or carbon monoxide alarms, fire extinguishers, all of these things are in place, and you guys have a plan and you know that those systems work. Checking your batteries and your smoke alarms and your carbon monoxide, making sure not only do you have a fire extinguisher, but it's in good condition, it's in working condition, and just making sure that it's still current and it's accessible. Those are the things that we want to make sure that we are pushing out, and people are aware that these things still occur, and you guys have access to those. The utilities. I don't know if anyone's bored at home, but I've had some times where I can say I've had some downtime. Just taking that time to walk around the house and figure out where those utilities are, and do those little small projects where I can go, okay, you know what? I haven't had time to actually go look for my utilities. Or if you have, go out and check and make sure they look okay. If there's been any modifications to them, if there's brush overgrown on them, if they're outside, just checking if they actually are still in good condition. Those are some of the things to do, and learn where they are, but take that and share it with the members of your household. Go, hey, you know what? I just want you guys to know, this is how you, in the event that something happens, this is how you turn off the gas, or this is how you turn off the electricity or the water. Sharing that information with people around you. If you have kids at home and you looking for more activities outside of just their virtual learning, splinting and bandaging. Take a pizza box. Show them how to splint and bandage an arm with some tape in the pizza box. Those are small things that kind of introduce the kids to how you can protect yourself with the basic resources around your house, but it's also sharing with them some information on how to do first aid in the event that you can't get to the hospital, or response times are extended due to COVID-19. Checking on your kids is one of the things that we always focus on, but that CERT, the community component of CERT, is getting to know your neighbor. So with that, I know that that's a lot of information, but a lot of the things that we've talked about in CERT, they're still valuable now. They're valuable more than ever now. with our new normal. So we just wanted to make sure that we bring those back to the surface as part of the refresher for the group. So with that, I will turn it over to, I believe, Lindsay Call to talk about one of our upcoming food distribution events.
Okay, back to me. So we, of course, have been collaborating with all of our partners across the region, including LA County Supervisor Kuehl's office throughout this disaster event. And you may have seen they're doing many emergency food distribution events throughout LA County. There's been one at the Hollywood Bowl and other sites to provide access to families who may be in need to fresh fruits, vegetables. It's about like a week's worth of groceries that are accessible to anyone. So Santa Monica is going to be hosting one of these emergency food distribution events on Wednesday, August 12th, and we are looking for volunteers. So we have the goal of at least 100 volunteers from Santa Monica, and we would love for our Santa Monica CERT volunteers to participate if able. We understand that during COVID, there are different restrictions. You know, people may not be able to go out of their homes because they're at an at-risk category related to COVID, and we're not asking you to put your health at risk. But if you are able to get out, wear a face covering, we have PPE available, and we'd love for you to participate. We're hoping to serve 1,500 families at this one-day event. Some of the activities that you'd be doing is loading cars with food, traffic control, event support. Be prepared. This is an on-your-feet job where it's a lot of physical activity. It'll be at the airport, Santa Monica Airport, in the interim open space. So we will have access to restrooms and snacks, light breakfast and lunch. And some shade, but there is a lot of sun, etc. So just be mindful of that. Not trying to discourage anybody. We really want volunteers to participate. And it's also a great opportunity. It's point of distribution, and so it'll be an exercise in training for all of us from the setup of that site to getting all the cars through the traffic circulation plan. To deploying our volunteers to serve the community in this fashion. And so again, we're really looking for volunteers. In our future email to all of the CERT members, we will include directions on how to register for this event. And again, it's Wednesday, August 12th, 6:30 a.m., rise and shine. To 2 p.m. We should be all demobbed and cleaned up. And then if you're interested or you have family members, friends, neighbors who may be interested in receiving the food source, receiving one of the food baskets, again, it's the airport interim open space. It'll be active and live from 9 to 12. On Wednesday, August 12th, we'll be sharing a lot of information via social media, SM alerts, etc. But this is, hot off the press news for just our CERT volunteers. So we hope you can join us there. Okay, back to you, Stephen or Lindsay.
All right. Well, that is a bulk of our presentation today. We know that there's been some questions that have come in from the chat, and we are and I know we've addressed most of those that have come in. So with that, I just want to, I know there was a couple of questions that did come in early on with Lindsay Folsom's email that went out. Oh, let me turn on sorry about that. It's either the audio or the video that you don't turn on, so I apologize. So I know that there's a few questions that came in early on, and we just want to make sure that we kind of address some of them. And so I know that there was a question about ham radio. We've definitely have a lot of people that are interested in ham radio right now. This is a valuable group of people that can help us in our emergency. Right now, we haven't done any type of event that is actually going to incorporate a lot of volunteers, and we haven't had anything just recently where our hand volunteers are being requested. So at this point, we still are working with a lot of our organization within in-house. And go ahead. We're working with a lot of people in-house, and we're gonna once an opportunity does come available, we will be reaching out to our ham volunteers to make sure we can incorporate that, incorporate everyone into our incident response. So we definitely appreciate that. If there are any follow-ups specifically, I definitely want to make sure that we will address those as much. The CERT deployment, I know that there was a question about that. This is kind of one of those things where we wanted to make sure we are pushing out our CERT members into a safe environment. That is one of the critical things for us. Not only just providing the PPE, but making sure that if we are going to host something, that we want to make sure that your safety is our #1 priority. We would be devastated if something happened to one of our CERT members and you guys took that home to your families. Or people within your household. So we are doing our best to make sure that we are not only hosting events that are safe for our community, but they're safe for the people that are actually going to be doing the response in our organization. So we are being very conscious of what activities we would like our volunteers to work with. But if there are opportunities where we believe that it is a safe environment, like our food distribution event, we will make sure that all of the safeguards are in place, whether it be PPE, hand sanitizer, hand washing stations, or just a lovely lunch. We will make sure that we have all of those things in place for your safety. The city-specific CERT topics, that's gonna be one of those things where we are looking at the refresher courses. We're looking at this event right here as our first go around to see if it is something that works for the group. And then once we start, if we get some positive feedback, we'll take also the constructive feedback to make this better for everyone. And if everything is working well, and please be honest, we want to make sure that this works for you. So if there's an opportunity for this, we will definitely work on making some more city-specific CERT topics to help better prepare our community, whether it be map your neighborhood and working with a lot of the people within your neighborhood. Or if it's just something that's very specific, like if we have tsunamis, or how to evacuate the city of Santa Monica if there is a wildfire or a mass evacuation. So those are some of the questions that I had early on. And Lindsay Folsom, I wasn't sure if you had any other questions that I might have missed.
Yeah, a couple of them popped up. Definitely people were asking about posting of websites or any of this content afterwards. Yes, we will. It may not be until early next week that we're able to push this all out to everybody. One person did ask early on, I think, Lindsay, #2, you mentioned 616 Santa Monica cases. Did they live in Santa Monica? Did they just get tested and diagnosed in Santa Monica? What does 616 mean?
So it would be the residents of Santa Monica based on zip code of what your home address is. For one of the big talking points, though, has been there unfortunately has been a lot of cases and a lot of deaths in our skilled nursing facilities across the nation. That has been one of the hardest hit locations, tragically. And so if you look at the locations and demographic data that LA County presents, it will have all of the city information with cases and the tragic deaths that have occurred in our city. If you continue to scroll down, you can actually see the total number of cases within a SNF, those individual skilled nursing facility. Those individuals may not live in Santa Monica, but were diagnosed there. And the staff may not live in Santa Monica, but they also have staff numbers included. And then you can even scroll down farther and see any businesses that have had outbreaks that are being investigated by LA County. We've checked it. I check it probably every week for updates, and I've seen only a handful of Santa Monica businesses, and then we follow up with our code enforcement teams, even though they are doing public health investigations specifically at those sites. So good question. Yes, those are Santa Monica resident cases, and we're working with LA County to try to dig more into the demographics related to those cases.
Thank you. On the same line with statistics, a positivity number you mentioned was 8%, and somebody asked, wasn't it supposed to be 5%?
5 would be great. I would love 5. That would be amazing. So 8% comes from the state of California for their attestation. So if we wanted to move forward with reopening, we have to hit a 8% benchmark or a certain number of cases, and that statistic is escaping me right at the moment. And so the reason LA County was able to move forward quickly with reopening was because it did hit that 8% positivity test rate, even though it had a high number of cases. And so that information is on their website under the data. If you go to the metrics, and you can see where we're at and if we're doing better or worse day by day.
Great. Thank you. Hope that answers it for the person who asked.
But I'll shoot for 5. I'm totally down for 5.
One more question that I saw. Oh, I saw another red dot. One more question. Khalil, you've asked too many questions. I'm sorry. How do you sign up for a test at the airport? Every time this person tries to sign up, it's full or can't get in, or can you explain that?
Yeah, so with testing, testing resources can be a challenge. So number one, if you're experiencing signs or symptoms of COVID-19, or you have been exposed, been a close contact of someone with COVID-19, your first step is to call your primary care provider. Call your doctor, your PA, and talk through that, because you have a medical history, and your doctor or your primary care provider can provide that dialogue with you about what are your risk factors, what are your symptoms, do they think it really is COVID, and then they can likely connect you with a test. So that it should always be your first bet when you are trying to get a test. If you want to explore one of the government options, it's totally free and open to anyone. It does have a high volume of cases, or a lot of people are trying to go and get tests that way. They are only prioritizing or giving tests to individuals who are symptomatic, have had a true exposure, or those who are essential workers, and that's all listed on their website. The challenge is the Santa Monica testing site is one of the only government testing sites on the west side, and so there's a very large demand for it. So it may be a challenge to get a case or a test in your own backyard, but there are a lot of urgent care clinics that are providing testing, as well as our local healthcare providers are doing the bulk number of tests within Santa Monica.
Great.
So be patient. And you might have to drive. You can't go to Dodger Stadium for a baseball game, but you could go to Dodger Stadium for a test. Sorry.
Khalil got kicked off even when you were covering the bit about ham. Is there anything you want to summarize for him, or should we suggest that he look at the recording later, or you two can follow up?
Just in short, there's nothing right now, but we will reach out if an opportunity does.
Lindsay, can I answer just a couple of questions about the food distribution event?
Great.
Okay. So first, there was a question about if there are going to be shifts. If you can imagine 1,500 cars getting into one area for within 3 hours, there's going to be a lot of traffic impacts to the airport area. And so because of that, we don't want our volunteers to have to come and drive in, try to find parking, try to get out of those parking spaces back into the traffic pattern related to the event. And so we're going to have one volunteer shift from about 6:30 to 2. So just wanted to answer that off the bat. And then in regards to PPE, we will be providing PPE for our volunteers and staff who are working the event, including medical gloves. You have to wear gloves when you're putting the food into individuals' cars. Have to be wearing a face covering. And then we'll also have face shields available in case those who are in their cars to picking up food are not wearing a face covering, so you can stay protected as well. So I just wanted to answer that. Back to you, Folsom.
There was a lengthy comment about how maybe communication from the city to the residents wasn't as swift or as thorough, or might have been conflicting with other information. Would anybody like to just generally address that?
So I would sign up make sure you are signed up for SM alerts, but probably one of the best ways to get updates is through the Santa Monica newsletter. Me and the comms team write that pretty much every week, and it goes out with all of the updates. So that you can sign up at smgov.net/newsletter. And that is a really effective way of getting all of the information in one email with pictures and links and everything. So it's one-stop shopping. Again, we can send out that link as well in our follow-up email.
Great. I think that addresses the questions that I was able to see. I'm sure we'll get a few by email afterwards. This has been great. You can now see all of our contact information on the slide that's up there now. Oh, more questions are popping up. I think it's a two-way street. We've given you our information. Please keep us apprised of any of your contact information that may have changed. If you have given us your business emails, maybe you're not working there anymore and it might be time to update us. So please feel free to always communicate through the OEM. You may communicate with me, but I prefer the generic OEM email address because all three of us get to look at that email.
And just real quick, I know a lot of people have signed up for SM alerts in the past. If we did switch to a new vendor, which is Everbridge, and it's still the same, it's still the same type of system, just a different vendor. If you haven't had the opportunity to go to our smalerts.net webpage and actually sign up, we can get those tailored messages to not only just your cell phone, but if you want to have emergency messages go to your email, you can pick which type of alerts that you want to receive, as we do send out various alerts, whether it be traffic or emergency, just disaster tips. So smalerts.net gives you the most flexibility in the type of alerts that you want to receive. If you just want to receive quick alerts just on a text message only, you go to your cell phone. The phone number is 888-777. And in the message, you just put SM alerts, all one word. And that will actually push you into our generic text message base. It'll only be a text message that you would receive for localized emergencies. And that would help deconflict some of the information that may be coming out from jurisdictions that are in Los Angeles or from the county as a whole. You'll get those localized alerts that way. So if you guys have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to us, whether it be through the OEM email or just reaching out to us through our phone number. We'll do our best to help you guys work through that one.
So that pretty much wraps it up for the day, I think. We've
Okay.
really enjoyed it. Oh, some more?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell everybody I appreciate you all taking time again out of your evening, right at dinner time, to be with us. I appreciate all the feedback that you've shared. Continue to be engaged. Oh, and our poll response was 44% are volunteering with nonprofits. 56 aren't yet, but maybe they're interested. But anyway, we appreciate you volunteering with us in CERT, and we thank you for your patience during this crazy time, and just continue to be engaged and continue to give feedback. We appreciate it. Okay, Lindsay or Stephen?
I'll let Folsom, I'll let you close if that's okay. I just want to say thank you guys. I know this is the first time. I appreciate, like Lindsay said, I appreciate the feedback. We will do our best to make sure that this works best for not only our team, but makes it work for you guys. I know there's some communication questions, whether or not this is the perfect medium. This is our first time, and your feedback is definitely appreciated so we can make this perfect for everyone going forward. So thank you guys again. It's a pleasure meeting everyone virtually, and I'll throw it over to Lindsay Folsom.
I'm just going to reiterate the thank you very much, and also appreciate everybody's understanding and patience with technology. I know for some of you, you got kicked off and came back on again. There were a few frozen faces for a moment, but I think it worked out pretty well given what our options are. If anybody else has other suggestions, please feel free to throw them at us. And the comments are continuing. Everybody's very positive. I think this was great. I think we've all learned a little something to take away or to be reminded of that we did learn once upon a time that we need to bring back and redo. And we may also be sending you a real survey, but probably earlier next week, just to see if there's anything to do better with. Anything else? I'm quickly looking at all these comments. Most people are saying goodbye. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Stay healthy. Stay safe.
Bye. Stop recording.